Hello, everybody. This is Diana and Patty at Hunger Solutions. Thank you all for attending today's webinar. I'm going to bring up our screen now, and I'm going to, excuse me, again, my voice is not great, but I am going to power on through here just like we did the last time. Okay, I'm going to, first of all, say again, thank you for everybody for being here. The other thing I'm going to do, in case there's anybody who has any kind of, problems just sort of dialing in, I've got something else here I'm going to put up on the screen for just a minute. And what I will do is leave this up here for just a minute so that everybody can see this and they can see the proper way to get on, whether you're calling in or you are using your speakers and your headphones. We're waiting for just a couple more people, so we took a little delay there so everybody could sign in. Yes, I do have the cough drop in my mouth, and no, Patty's right here. She's going to make sure I do not choke to death. I do have adult supervision. So today what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the data collection report, which also includes your main target. And as promised, we're also going to look at your outreach approval form as well. A couple of things that we wanted to follow up with. And again, we're going to go through your data collection report step by step, tab by tab. I will stop after a main target, and then I will also stop after each tab to answer questions. Patty and I will. We'll also team teach us like we did last week. So if there's something Patty would like to clarify, elaborate on, etc., she'll jump in and do that as well. This broadcast is being recorded today. But the way we're going to do questions is over on your right side of your screen, up at the top, you'll see a little orange rectangle with a white arrow. If you click on that and you slide it out, you'll see a questions box. And what you'll do is you'll type your questions right in that question box. Now, with the question box, it'll come to us and we can see it, and you can put your questions in there, and then we will answer it verbally, again, after the main target and after each tab in data collection as well, and also during, after our outreach approval also. So we'll stop periodically and look at those questions. It looks like we've got a good number of folks with us now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the actual webinar, and we'll go to data collection and outreach. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to NOEP Online, and I believe all of you have your logins from NOEP Online. If you don't, then definitely reach out to your contract manager. But I believe everybody does. So what I'm signing in now actually with is a FAW account. It's not a real account, even though you'll see some real names in here, and you'll see a name of an organization. This is our test site. So this means it doesn't represent anybody's actual numbers. So when you come in, the first thing you're going to see is you're going to, we have a question, how do I see you? Log in to the webinar that you were sent, and click on that, and it should bring you to something that says webinar opener. Click on the webinar opener and you should be able to see the screen. So if you have problems, log all the way back out and then back in. Sometimes things can get hung up, technology being what it is. So what you'll want to do is go all the way back out, click on that link in your email that you got saying that the webinar was today, and then go to the opener and it should bring up the screen. So the first page you come to is your main target. And your main target is the number that was set at the beginning of the year. And you can see that main target number. I'm just going to grab a pointer here so I can show you where I am. So this is your main target, and that was set at the beginning of the contract year. And then below it, you'll see the year. This is the year. Towards the end of a contract year, if you're reporting, you want to make sure that you are in the correct contract year. Right now, you're fine. It's going to come up as 2018-19. But at the end of a contract year, if you're still reporting numbers back for 2018-19, always make sure you're in that correct year. If you're not, you can click here. It'll do a drop down. You put in your correct year, and then you hit go. All right. Now we're going to come down, and I'm going to use the third quarter here so I can demonstrate how to do your reporting. All right. The first number you're going to see on this main target page, that's what we call this, the main target page, is the number of household pre-screened. Now, the number of household pre-screens, that's both your quick pre-screens and your full pre-screens. Quickly revisit a quick pre-screen is when you get just enough information about the household size and the income that you can feel like you can safely say, based on what you told me, it seems like you may potentially be eligible or potentially not eligible for SNAP. A full pre-screen is when you sit down and you do a full budget worksheet with someone, you get all their information, and then you say, based on what you just told me, it seems like you are potentially eligible or ineligible for SNAP. Keep in mind, even if somebody's ineligible, it seems like they're ineligible, you still count that here because you did the work, you did the pre-screen. So here you count your full and your quick pre-screens for this quarter. I'm going to say, just for the sake of today, I'm going to say I did 100 pre-screens. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. This is good. I forgot to do this. The first thing I have to do is hit enable. And if you don't hit enable, you're not going to be able to type in. That'll be your first clue. You didn't do what you should have done, like me. So I made an error there, but it was easy enough to fix. So now we'll enter 100. See, if the numbers don't go, you just have to hit that enable. Then I'm going to go down to how many households did I refer to LDS HRA. So again, this is referring to the application process like we talked about last week. And if you have any questions, you can also go back to your PowerPoint because we did define that here. So you can go back and you can see that in your PowerPoint. So refer to LDS HRA, again, is just it means that you have pre-screened them. You have to pre-screen first, found them potentially eligible, pre-screen, potentially eligible, and then you said you can apply. I can assist you with that, or here are your options. For example, in New York City, it might be Morrow. They can mail it in. They might want to take it down themselves. You can offer those options. But pre-screen, potentially eligible, refer to the application process, including I can help you with that. All right, say how many households of those did I refer? I found that, maybe 90 were potentially eligible. I'm making these numbers up. Now we're going to go to tracking. We talked about tracking a lot last week because it's so important. Tracking, again, helps you not only meet your tracking numbers, which is 35%. You must track 35% of everybody you refer to the application process. But also keep in mind, tracking, following up with your client, doing tracking that way is tremendously important because you're going to get access into barriers that are going on, so you can do your barrier work. And you'll also see as we go through here, there's some information here you wouldn't know unless you followed up with your client. So, approved. How many of those 90 were approved? I'm going to say it was 80. What does approved mean? They received benefits. They were found to be eligible for SNAP and received benefits. How many of those were denied? Well, I'm going to say of those, maybe 5 were denied. probably a little bit high, but I'm making these numbers up as I go along. Now, also denied, if somebody withdraws their application, takes it back voluntarily, that technically is going to be considered denied as well. Again, that's one of the things you wouldn't know unless you followed up with your client. All right? Past due, I'm going to say there were 4 past due. Past due means we went over in depth, both in our SNAP 101 and our NOEP 101, those time frames that DSS and HRA has to process applications. For regular quote-unquote SNAP, it's 30 days from the date of submission of that application, and for expedited, it's 5 days past the day of submission, so essentially 6 days. So if it's day 31 or if it's day 7, then that application is technically past due. And of course, that's when you can start following up too, after those time periods are ended. Then never submitted an application, something else you would not know unless you followed up with your client. I'm going to put 1 here. This may be a case for somebody, you help them with their application. They're going to take it themselves to DSS. And before they get there, they find out they got a really good job. That would be a great scenario. So never submitted an application. And again, the only way you know is when you follow up with your client. Down here is just some information for you. Number of households tracked, tracking percentage, cumulative success rate, and main target result. What this main target result is, it's looking at, pardon me, how close you are getting to in this quarter. It's not how close you're getting to, but in this quarter, how many households were that you assisted and were approved for SNAP. All right, it's going to come from these numbers up here. It's going to be based also on your tracking, and that number will self-populate. Now, one thing to keep in mind, behind the scenes, there's a formula that goes on here that gives you basically a little extra credit for those folks that we know, based on your cumulative success rate, would have likely received SNAP after you did one of those quick pre-screens, or for somebody you couldn't follow up with. Because we know you do a lot of good work, you do some quick pre-screens out there, and based on something you told folks, some of those folks are going to go down, they're going to apply, and they're going to receive benefits. So the formula here gives you a little extra credit for those. That's basically what happens here. So this is your column here, all the numbers you enter. When you go down here, you'll see a little performance summary. This is going to tell you about your main target cumulative total, how much money is coming into your community based on the number of applicants approved. And then as you go down, you'll get your average tracking percentage. Remember, you want to be at 35% for every quarter. And then there's information here that just gets added either by your contract manager or by the system. One thing to keep in mind is outreach campaigns. If it's not updated immediately after an outreach campaign, don't worry. Your contract manager has to update that after the quarter is closed out, and they look at it and they do their work on their end. So if this does not, again, update immediately after a campaign is closed, don't worry. It'll be updated after the quarter is closed and you have submitted your main target. Speaking of submission, this button is really important. Often, NOEP coordinators, especially when they're new, forget to submit their main target. They'll submit their data collection, but they won't submit the main target. So at the end of a quarter, make sure you're submitting both your main target page as well as your data collection, and then we'll look at your outreach approval for some other work you need to do at the end of a quarter. So do not forget to submit. Okay? If you want to change something, say you go back through your records and you find out, oh my goodness, it was actually 107 people I wanted to pre-screen. All I have to do is hit update, that I pre-screened, excuse me. I'll put in 107, I'll click update again, and then I can correct that number. And any other numbers, obviously, down here that need correcting as well. So it's update, correct that and update again, and then you'll want to submit it at the end of the contract quarter, okay, at the end of the quarter. If you do submit accidentally, your contract manager can fix that and unlock it, but you want to try not to hit that button until you're ready to submit all of your numbers. Okay, are there any questions based on this main target page before we move into the dashboard? Oh, wait just a second. I'm not seeing any questions come up. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, we're going to move into dashboard. Dashboard is where you will find your data collection. I'm sorry, not dashboard, program. Excuse me, program. Program is where you'll find your data collection. I'm heavily medicated, folks. Truly. Data collection. All right. And here's where we start. We're going to walk through our tabs. So we're going to see we're in our correct year. And if not, we'll hit go. Again, this is only really important at the end of a contract year. And then we're going to find our quarter that we're reporting on. Here we go. Quarter, year, third quarter. I'm going to use this one because it's nice and blank for me. Okay. Again, just a reminder for anybody who came in late, this is not Mary Laurie's, nor is it the Food Bank of the Southern Tiers numbers. This is our page that we make up. This is our test site, so this doesn't reflect anybody's real numbers, anybody's NOEP. Coming up here, you'll see work in progress, progressing, and approved. These will change as work in progress. This is when you're working on it throughout your quarter. Processing will be in bold once you send it to your contract manager after you submit it, and approved will come back once it's completely approved by your contract manager. Okay. Here, save and continue, save and done, and submit for approval. Save and continue is when you're moving from tab to tab. Now, we have a nice auto feature now that saves it, but it never hurts to save and continue. Technology being what it is, I would always still advise you to hit save and continue when you're moving from tab to tab. Save and done is when you're done for right now. For example, I'm entering some information. I'm going to enter more later today or on Friday or however it is in my workflow. I enter my data. So this is just save and done for right now. I can go back in at any time and enter more. And then submit for approval. Again, this is when at the end of the quarter you want to submit this to your contract manager. Again, try to not hit this to the end of the quarter because then you're going to have your contract manager unlock it. It's not the end of the world. Don't feel bad if that happens, but I wanted to let you know that that's what that is. Submit for approval is for the end of the quarter. Now we're going to walk across tab by tab with the barriers and do some explanations, go through each tab, and again, we'll stop after each tab to see if you have any questions. This is our data analysis tab. With the data analysis tab, and I'm going to see if I can just make this a tad bigger for us. So hang on. Let me see if I can just make this a little bit bigger. I don't want to make it too big, but that's going to help us, I think, a little bit. Okay, I know on your screen you can probably see it pretty well, but I just wanted to bring it up a little bit. So for data analysis, please specify the number of households you assisted. Households may account in more than one category. So before we get into each section here, I'm going to give you a little important tip. Remember, know that phrase, measure twice, cut once? Well, if you're a new NOEP coordinator in particular, read twice, cut once. I'm sorry, Pat.
Is there a question?
Oh, that was from early,
okay,
Patty.
okay.
Thank you. Patty she thought she saw a question. It was from earlier. Okay. So this will switch, as you will see on this page, from number of households to number of individuals, actual individuals, all the individuals in the household. So please read carefully so you know what you're entering. That gives you ensures that you're entering the real information that's being asked for, and you're not going to have to go back and correct. So please make sure you read very carefully, because again, from section to section, this really does switch on what you're being asked to count. So our very first set of data, specify the number of households you assisted. Households may count in more than one category. This is for new applications. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's not. This is for the entire spectrum of your work. Excuse me on that. So this is for all the households you assisted. What does assisted mean? You answered information about SNAP. You may have referred somebody, pre-screened somebody and referred them to the application process, like a quick pre-screen. You help them with a recertification or a change form. This really is the whole spectrum of your NOEP work. So these are households you assisted. Okay, recertification, new applications, answering questions, for example. So again, households can count in more than one category, because obviously some households can have earned income, some have unearned income, no income. So you count the number of households you helped in each one of those categories. Now we're going to switch. Please specify the number of individuals you assisted. And again, individuals can count in more than one category. Ethnicity. We do ask about ethnicity, and we never assume. So we can say, do you mind if I ask, how do you identify, African American, etc.? If somebody refuses, that's okay. We just do the best we can. We don't assume. And if somebody chooses not to provide that information, that's okay. We respect that absolutely. Now we go down to please count only the actual individuals in the household who are. Here I'm going to have to give you a couple definitions. When it comes to disabled, for this category, we're going to be using the SNAP definition of disabled. We talked about that, receiving a federally related disability benefit like SSI, SSD, or 100% VA. And we know that there are more, so you can consult your pre-screen guide about that, pre-screening guide. So for this category, we're using the SSI, or sorry, the DSS definition of disabled. Then we're going to come down to college students. Here we're not using the definition of college student. This is for the purpose of reporting. So this isn't about budgeting. Keep that in mind. Not about budgeting. So for college students, if whoever is applying for the household says, oh, my son's in college, you would just count that here. It doesn't matter if they're going full-time or part-time, if they're getting meals on campus, if they're living home, that doesn't matter. This isn't about budgeting, it's reporting. So you would just put that there, a college student. And then as many college students as you helped during that quarter, households that had college students that you helped. Incarcerated, I'm going to say this a couple times. We never, ever ask anybody if they were incarcerated. But if we do find that out during the process of assisting that individual, we would count those individuals here. A couple of things. Some NOEP coordinators actually do go into correctional facilities, state and local, to start assisting individuals who are going to be released very soon. So, of course, they would know they had been incarcerated. Sometimes somebody might give you something like their discharge papers, the release papers, from the correctional facility for identification. You would know it that way. Or somebody might just mention it. But we never ask about it. So you would put the number of incarcerated individuals here. It could be somebody who was recently incarcerated or incarcerated any time in their past. Okay, but we don't ask about it. Count all individuals in the household. Again, everybody now, we have switched, all individuals in the household. How many? The military families. How many homeless families? Again, no SNAP definition here of homeless. Somebody says they're homeless, the family says they're homeless, we count those numbers here. And how many individuals in farm families. Now we're going to move down to ages. As we talked about when we did our training last week, with ages you do your best. You might find somebody's age because of the fact you're helping them with the application and you see their ID, they see their birth certificate, etc. Um, if, for example, you help somebody, it's a quick pre-screen, and that person looks, obviously over 60, and you put them in a 60 category, and it turns out that they were actually 59, but you had no way to know that, don't worry about it. You're doing the best you can. Okay? Because these are such broad categories, it's easy to get the ages. So if somebody says they have 3 children in grade school or young children, you can enter those 3 children in the 18 or under category. We just do our best. And then individuals assisted by zip code. So, and again, you can add here as many zip codes as you like. Maybe I helped altogether 25 people in 12205. That's our office, by the way. And then I can go on adding zip codes as I need. And again, all the... Oh, 122, what did I do?
No, zip code, you put 25 or
Oh, I did. I helped 12,205 people this quarter.
You were busy.
I'm darn good. All right, thanks, Patty. So zip code and how many people I assisted, and then I can add as many other zip codes as I want. All right. So that is the data collection category. Again, this reflects the scope of your NOEP work with a lot of different individuals, everything from providing information on SNAP to helping them with their application or their recertification. I'm going to stop now. Are there any questions relative to the data analysis tab? Okay, I'm not seeing any. That's fine. If you have questions afterwards, don't hesitate to contact your contract manager. Your contract manager knows this form really, really well, and they can help you out. If it's something they didn't happen to know, then we'll get the answer for you. Okay. And again, we're going to do another webinar before the end of the contract that we do for all NOEP coordinators. You'll have actually a chance to see this again if you would like to. With the Outreach tab. Outreach. Outreach analysis. This is about the people who come to you based on your outreach. One important point to note is this column, as it runs down the side over to the left, must match the number in this box up here. So if I have like 100 here, all total, including my others, if I added more, I must have 100 up here. They must match. So indicate the number of households, number of households that contacted NOEP for SNAP information. Then indicate how these households heard about NOEP and provide the number of households that contacted you due to each. What you want to make sure is you ask all your clients, how did you hear about me? How did you hear about NOEP? For 2 reasons. One, obviously you need to report this right here in your outreach analysis. You're going to ask everybody that. You're also going to ask them for another reason. It gives you really good feedback on where your outreach is working. So if you find out you have a promotional item that's doing really well, if you find out that you are doing presentations at a certain place, and you're getting a lot of people from there, that gives you great feedback to know that your outreach is working. So there's 2 really important reasons to ask that question. So you go through and you put in your total number, and again, these must match this number. And was it based on your outreach material, your presentation? Again, a presentation is when you basically give a talk, like doing a talk at a senior center. Was it through a community event? A community event is tabling, when people come up to you and you give them information about SNAP. You count those folks who come up to you and you talk to them about SNAP, about your NOEP. And you go down referrals from other agencies, walk-in, website, etc., unknown or other. And you can add as many others there as you choose to, ways that people heard about you. Any questions on the Outreach Analysis tab? All right, I'm not seeing any questions. Again, if you have any questions, just let us know. And now SNAP applications. All the information in this tab is for new applications only. Okay, this does not count your recertification work. We'll get to another tab where you'll count your recertification work. So this is for new SNAP applications only. The first two are filled in for you from your main target page. The system will fill in those two numbers. The third, please specify the total number of households that you provided SNAP application assistance to. Again, for new applications only. What is application assistance? You help them fill out the application. You maybe help those who are eligible for medical deductions to collect and sort out and put in the information on their medical deductions, for example. You copy documents for them or help them get the documents they needed, like a birth certificate or some other kind of ID, right? So that's SNAP application assistance. So you put in the total number of households in that first box. Then we're going to go down to some other ways. Please specify how many households from the above number that were assisted in the specific ways. Households, again, may count in more than one category. My benefits. So you referred somebody to the SNAP application process, my benefits for the SNAP application process only, okay, and just for the SNAP application, not for anything else. You want to make sure it's just for that SNAP application that you referred them. Again, always remember, before you refer, you have to pre-screen and find potentially eligible, always. How many did you do home visits for, if you do home visits? How many did you provide translation services for? Either you translated or you helped them secure translation services, maybe through a language line. Helped with medical deductions specifically. Verified correct allotment of benefits of SNAP. You're going to see this phrase twice on your reporting. Right? You're going to see it twice. Different meetings though. So for this tab, SNAP application, verified correct allotment of SNAP benefits means you helped somebody with their application, you followed up with them, and you verified that it was the correct allotment. So what this might mean is you pre-screen somebody, you refer them to the application process, you help them, and then you find out maybe there was a discrepancy. Maybe when you did the budget, you thought you estimated they're going to get like $225 of benefits. And when it comes back, their letter says $140. That's a big discrepancy. So you can check in, see if you can get that determination letter and see if there was a mistake at DSS or HRA. So you're helping them with that new application verify the correct allotment of benefits. You're doing some work to help them on that new application to make sure it was the correct amount. Then for New York City only, how many did you use the paperless office system, POS? How many did you refer to Access NYC, which is like my benefits in New York City, for the application process? How many did you refer to Maru for the mail-in application referral unit, or an easy access site, which is a community-based organization that allows uploading of documents, for example, to HRA. And then additional application assistance. Remember, we talked about this. I hope you remember. It was late in the training, so if you don't worry about it. Go back to your PowerPoint and go back to your pre-screening guide. We talked about SNAP replacement benefits and disaster benefits. How many folks did you help with SNAP replacement benefits? That's, again, that household misfortune where power was out for more than 4 hours. Disaster SNAP benefits, you shouldn't have anything in this column. Right now, we have had no disaster declared. Again, a SNAP disaster is a DSNAP is federal. Well, New York State has to get authority from the federal government. It's for a major disaster. It's a big deal. It doesn't happen overnight. That has not happened. Any questions on the SNAP application tab? Sounds like the infirmary in here, folks. We do apologize. You get the luxury of being muted. So if you're hacking and coughing and sounding disgusting, nobody knows. Okay, no questions. We're going to go on to referral. Referral tab actually is pretty self-explanatory. The number of referrals you made to other nutrition assistance programs and community resources. There is one thing you really need to know about this, however. To count a referral in here, all right, to count referral in here, the referral must have been accepted at the time you offered it. It must have been accepted by the household. So, for example, a family comes in, they're talking to me about SNAP. I'm going to help them with their application, whatever it might be. Or maybe they're going to do the application on their own. It doesn't matter. But I make a referral for them because I find out they're having some trouble with one of the household members is a senior. And they're having some trouble with that person at home. They might need a little home care, or maybe they just need something from the Meals on Wheels or something like that, whatever it happens to be. And I say, oh, you know what? Here's the number for the senior center, a senior assistance program, and here's some information on home care. And I give them those referrals. That's where I would count this. I'm referring families I work with, households I work with, to Eat Smart New York, and we talked about Eat Smart New York, or to HEAP, or to a soup kitchen or a food pantry, for example. These are referrals I'm making to the households I work with. And again, it may be a household that qualifies. It might be a household also that doesn't qualify for SNAP. Maybe they're just over income. You know, they're a little bit over income, but I still made a referral. But again, they have to accept the referral. If they say, no, no thank you, I don't want that, then you can't count that referral, okay? Or if somebody calls up and says, hey, you made that referral and I tried this program and they're closed for this season, they're not doing any more of whatever it happens to be. You still made the referral. They took the referral, so it counts. Because you can't know every program's, rules, regulations, etc. You try to make really, really good referrals always, but if you made the referral, they accepted it, you count it here. Okay? And you can put, again, in as many others as you want. Right? Maybe it was a furniture program, etc. you referred to. So you just add as many others as you like there for referrals. Any questions on referrals? It's a really nice part of NOEP work to be able to make those referrals to help families with additional issues that they're facing in their life at that point. Okay, recertification. Recertification. I want to talk to you about this recertification tab because there's a couple things here I want you to pay special attention to. This is where we're doing that recertification work. Somebody gets a recertification packet. How many households did you assist with the SNAP recertification process? You put that right in here. And then please indicate the specific ways you assisted households from above, from here, with recertification. So of this number of recertifications that I did, how many of those were home visits? And how many did I provide translation services for, or I helped find translation services for? Pretty self-explanatory. Now, this is where we want to take a special look here. Please specify any additional ways that you assisted a current SNAP recipient with their SNAP benefits. So now we're really getting out of the recertification packet, and it's other work we're doing for somebody who already has SNAP when they came to us. Right? This might be, for example, that change form or a periodic report. Okay, so this is not a recertification, but they already had SNAP when they came to us. Now, I told you you'd see verify correct allotment of benefits again, and it means something different. For this instance, this is where a household comes to you. They already have SNAP, and they say to you, we need some help. You know, we had a baby, and we sent our our change report to DSS, and we've sent them documentation. We have the baby now. You know, maybe one. We sent them the documentation. We have the baby. We just got our SNAP benefits, and it's still the same amount. So this is where you want to help that family run a budget and see if maybe the DSS has made a mistake and they really did not include that baby in the household. Okay, so you're verifying correct allotment of benefits to somebody who comes to you who already had SNAP, that you did not assist with that application process. All right. Questions on that? I'm not seeing any come in. All right, I'm going to move on to the face-to-face tab. And this is just what it says, face-to-face. Okay? These are individuals that you saw face-to-face, not on the phone, not email. Okay. I'm going to skip do presentation and community events. Then
Diana, can I just add one thing?
Oh, please.
And then don't forget your face-to-face is with potentially eligible individuals. So whether it's whether it's a presentation or a community event, it's with potentially eligible individuals.
Okay. So we're going to come back to other after we talk about presentations and community events. Not that other isn't important. Presentations, again, presentations are when you do essentially like a talk. So I'm going to say that I spoke to 30 people. I did one presentation. I did it on March 12th, 2019. And where did I do it? At Albany Senior Center. And that's it. 123 Main Street, Albany, 12230. I have no idea. I haven't been there in a long time. Okay, so that's the presentation. Now, keep in mind, maybe I went there, maybe I go there every month. And so, or almost every month. I went there 3 times.
Can you show them how to add another?
Oh, yes. 90 people. And then I can write in all the dates that I went there. Maybe I went there 2/12, and maybe I went there like 1/15, and that way there I can put in someplace that I go multiple times. And that will happen. You'll have certain libraries, senior centers, food pantries, etc., that you go to repeatedly. And then to add another presentation, you would go here. Maybe I did a presentation. I talked to 30 people on February 27th, and it was at the Oak Street Head Start Parents Group. And then I would put in obviously I'd put in the address. Okay? Again, as Patty said, this whole page is about potentially eligible. All right? You're not talking to staff, you're talking about you're not talking to low-income individuals, groups of low-income individuals. Community event is, for example, there is a kids free school supply day, all right, where they're giving out free school supply to low-income children. I went there once. I talked to 28 people. I was there once. I was there on, I know this is not school supply time, but I was there on January 23rd, and I went to, it was a free school supply day. Let me get it. Terrible typing. Free school supply day and I was at St. Patrick's Church. And then I'm going to put in the address. And again, here you're entering for community events. It's those folks who came up to you. So if it's a big event, like a fair, a county fair, you're not going to count everybody at the county fair, all right, or at the health fair. It's those folks who came up to you and you provided them some education, some information about SNAP, right? That's what a community event is. And then just like with presentations, you can add as many other community events as you wish. Any questions on those? Actually, no, let me do other contacts. I'm going to put 35. Other contacts is when you, again, it's a face-to-face. For example, there's a walk-in. Somebody comes in and they're seeing somebody else in another part of their agency, and then that other person says, hey, why don't you go over and see Diana? She's our NOEP coordinator. And they come up to you and you meet with them, give them some information, whatever that is. Or it could be somebody comes into your office you had a set appointment with. You can, that is also a face-to-face. Somebody comes in with an appointment. Also, it might be out in the community. Maybe you're out putting out flyers somewhere. So maybe the library, you're putting out brochures or flyer, and somebody says, hey, SNAP, what is that? And you give them some information about SNAP. You tell them about SNAP, about your NOEP, and so that's also an other. So that's where you count your others right here. We had questions. Suppose it's a line of people, like maybe at a mobile truck. And you went down the line and talked to everybody and gave them a brochure. You would count that in other. Anybody you talked to in that line and you gave them some information and you talked to them about SNAP. Okay, that would be an other. Any questions there?
And just remember, everyone, in this category, you can only do outreach in your county or your service area.
Any questions? Face to face. Again, person to person. Okay, we're going to move on to narrative. This is called narrative analysis. You're going to do both a barrier narrative and a collaboration narrative. One per quarter, okay? A minimum of one per quarter. And again, we talked about this last week. But here's where we're going to enter those barrier narratives. Now, before we get too far into it, you'll see a barrier narrative and a collaboration narrative. This narrative describes the steps you took to address a barrier to accessing SNAP, LDSS, or HRA. So you did some kind of barrier work. The narrative should describe a barrier for new SNAP applications, not recertification. Okay, this is for new SNAP applications that you did barrier work on. Now, before we get to this name of barrier, which you definitely need, I'm just going to hop tabs for 1 minute. Look at all these barriers. Again, I did the heavy lifting. There's more than 50. It was like 54 or 56. You'll want to go here, and this is where you'll want to get your name for your barrier from. Getting familiar with this list is a couple things. One, it helps you identify barriers, because sometimes barriers happen and you don't really, especially as a new NOEP coordinator, recognize that that was a barrier. And also, it's going to give you a chance to get that barrier name. You really want to use barrier name from this list. For example, submitted documents that were lost or misplaced. Let's use that one. I'm going to just copy it, and I think I can just paste it right in here. I should be able to. Yes, copy and paste. So that's what happened. My client called and said, I had helped them with the application. It was a new application, and they said they've submitted these documents and submitted it, and they were lost and misplaced. They called DSS. DSS said they can't find them, and your client knows they were sent in. Maybe you even sent them in for the client. Where was it? Well, if it was HRA, it might be something like HRA
S15.
Site
S15.
S15, okay? If it's upstate, it's probably just going to be like, I'm not picking on Albany County DSS, it's just where I'm sitting today, and my brain doesn't work that well. Albany County DSS. Then you're going to describe the barrier, how you identified it, how you addressed it, and how the change was made, agreed and made the change. You have to have 3 steps. And you want to be somewhat specific, but you don't want to write a book, okay? Specific, but not write a book. How did I, client DLL called and said that her medical deduction paperwork was lost by DSS. All right. How did you address the barrier? You can write in. For example, my typing is terrible, so I'm going to just do this as an audible. You called and spoke to Supervisor Jane at Albany DSS, Jane W. or something at Albany DSS. Jane said that the paperwork seems to be missing, and they cannot find it. So you submitted the application or resubmitted the documentation for your client. And Jane said she will talk to the worker about being more careful with their paperwork. Or maybe it was a new worker, and maybe the issue was that they used the wrong guidelines, and you'll find that in the barrier. And the worker said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm new. I used the wrong guidelines. I used to work at WIC, and I was using their guidelines, for example. So what you need is a little bit of a narrative. How you found out about it, that's almost always going to be the client. How you addressed it, and how DSS agreed and made the change. In other words, they acknowledged, yes, there was an error, and this is how they're going to remedy it. Now, a couple things. Unfortunately, once in a while, a case will go to a fair hearing. At that point, you can't obviously proceed anymore. So you might not know the outcome if this went to a fair hearing, but you can say in here what you did up to that point to assist the client. The other thing you'll want to know here about this barrier narrative is that when you're writing up your barrier narrative and it says LDSS agreed and made the change, you could also, in New York City, that will often be the mediation model. So if you're a NOEP that works, a NOEP coordinator that works in New York City, you will most likely use the mediation model, and then you will put that in here. You could also put in here, for example, you needed to get policy clarification, and you called Colleen Donovan, and you can put that in your barrier narrative. Then Colleen gave you that policy information, and then you reconnected with DSS and talked to them about that policy, and they made the change. All of those things can go in your barrier narrative. Again, you don't want to write a book, but you want to be very succinct, point by point by point, and address these 3 points that were made. And again, for your barrier, name of your barrier, you want to go out to the barrier tab. Before I go to collaboration narrative, is there any questions on the barrier narrative? I want to make sure that that's nice and clear.
And I just want to add one thing. Just make sure you're not putting any client identification in there. So don't put the client's name in there. You can definitely put like Mr., just say his last name starts with a D. You can put Mr. D or something like that. Just don't put anything in there where somebody would know who that client is that you're speaking of. It's okay to put who you spoke with at DSS or HRA, but just, we want to keep confidentiality for the client.
Any questions? Okay, I'm going to go on to the collaboration narrative now. Oh, by the way, you can add another barrier narrative. If you choose to add another barrier narrative, just make sure there's a separate barrier. It has to be about 2 different things. It can't be a follow-up. It has to be 2 separate barrier narratives. A collaboration narrative is when you go out and you educate another community-based organization, or maybe a local community leader office, like a mayor or a legislator, about NOEP. You're educating about NOEP. Of course, you can throw SNAP information in there too, but the definition is you're educating about your NOEP. And likely you'll be obviously talking about SNAP too, so they understand what you're doing. So what agency did I'm going to say, home care, whoops, got the caps on. Home care providers of Tioga County. Then describe how you educated this other agency or program about the benefits of working with NOEP. I talked to the director, 3 social workers, and 12 staff members. And told them how I work. Then go on. I told them how I work with low-income individuals and help them with SNAP applications and pre-screen for SNAP. And I let them know that they could refer their clients to me and also, if it works out, you can also write in here that you set up a referral back and forth where home care agents, home care providers of Tioga would refer to you when they had clients they thought might benefit from SNAP. And in turn, you'll have them as one of your providers that you can refer to for home care when you do your referrals. Now, it's not absolutely imperative that you have a referral system to report on that in your collaboration narrative. It's the ultimate goal, but it's not absolutely imperative. But what this is going out in the community and it's educating those other CBOs and your local officials, for example, about what you do, about your NOEP. So then you can build up that working relationship so you can get referrals from them. That's real, you're out there, you're getting your name out there, maybe it might give you a place also to do your outreach. You might be able to put outreach in their lobby, for example. So that's what a collaboration narrative is. But keep in mind, this is different from a presentation. A presentation, you're going out there, or when you're going to do community events, you're talking to potentially eligible individuals, SNAP eligible. This is different. You're talking to staff. right? You're talking to staff. And again, you can add another collaboration narrative should you want to. Is there anything you'd like, any questions you have here?
And just remember, you need one narrative per quarter, one barrier narrative, and one collaboration narrative per quarter.
Okay, let's move on to our next tab. We took a quick look at this because this is where you're going to get the name for your barrier. And here you go through and you put in those barriers that you encountered, and you can always add another. As you can see, there's application barriers, wrongly denied, not screened for expedited, not using the 20% gross income test, excessive documentation required. Maybe they're asking, saying you have to have a Social Security card. That's not true. You need a Social Security number to apply for SNAP, but you don't need a card. Number, yes. Card, no. It might be technical difficulties with my benefits. It might be they did not provide an interpreter at DSS, for example, or HRA. You'll want to become very familiar with these barriers because, again, they're going to help inform your barrier narrative. Plus, it'll also help you see where those barriers are occurring. And when you report that to us also, then we know where those barriers are occurring. And we actually do have conversations with OTDA about the barriers that we are, our NOEP coordinators are encountering in the field in different locations across the state. So this is really good information to provide to us on many levels. So please make sure that you pull your labels from here and note your barrier work that you do. Okay? If you have any problems with your barrier work, again, please talk to your contract manager as well. Any questions on barriers? Okay, again, when you're all done with this, you're going to hit submit for approval when you're done for the quarter, and you're also going to submit your main target page as well. Okay, both those things will be submitted. All right. Also, just remember too that as you're developing, if you don't have one already, as you're developing your intake form, for example, or you're developing your file system, how you're going to keep track of your numbers, be very familiar with this when you start that process, because then you'll know what you need to collect to do your reporting. Okay.
And just to let you guys know, the third quarter actually covers from January 1st through March 31st. So you would count all the work that you've done for the third quarter starting January 1st through March 31st.
And once again, we're going to have another webinar on this as well. We'll go over exactly the same. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the outreach approval request. I said there was a little bit more work you have to do at the end of a quarter. What you'll need to do is you'll need to come in here, and what you'll do is you'll want to take and go through, and you want to make sure that your this has been updated with whether or not your outreach that you had approved was placed. Okay, you want to make sure that this was placed. So, for example, your Go Hungry with SNAP. It says it wasn't placed, but it was approved. All right. So you want to go in and make sure that this is correct. If this was actually placed, you want to go in and make sure it was yes, and the date of the placement. Whatever, I'm not sure what campaign this was. Date approved 2/13, so maybe it was a plate, maybe it was put out there on 2/15/19. Okay, so I want to make sure that that was, and I'll submit that to say yes, it was placed. So you want to go through again. I think I did.
So in this section that Diana's talking about, you only need to put one date. You need to put the first date that you started placing those flyers or that brochure or whatever it may be. And then we'll know that the item did start to be placed, and you'll put it throughout your service area, all the locations that were approved on that outreach request.
Now, you may have a no here, because if you have outreach approved, but you didn't have it made up, you didn't pay for it, you didn't order it, you got it approved and then decided, you know what, I think I'd like to do something else instead. This can say no. Please make sure you contact your contract manager and let them know that, because they'll wonder why it wasn't placed. So please, if you have a no here, make sure you contact your contract manager and let them know why it's a no. And again, if you made something up, if you made copies, if you ordered promo items and you got them, you definitely have to get those in the community you paid for them. But if you decide before production that you want to do something else, please, even though you had it approved, let your contract manager know. Very important. Okay? So that's that other piece of work you'll do before you end a quarter. You'll go through and you'll check the status. You'll check whether it was placed or not, if it was approved. And if not, if you did place it and it says no, you want to go in and change that and put in that first date that was put out in the community.
And just remember, all outreach needs to be approved by your contract manager prior to you placing it.
And prior to creation. All right. Any questions on any of that? Okay. All right. Now, one more thing was the
quarterly cover form.
Quarterly cover form. Yes, thank you, Patty, for the reminder. Remember, you have a form you have to put in your files for every quarter. It's called the quarterly report cover form. And what you want to do with your quarterly report cover form, you want to make sure that that is filled out with your pre-screens that you have done, and that is submitted along with your quarterly report. Okay, that's the fourth thing that must come in is your quarterly report cover form. So you're going to submit your main target, you're going to submit your data collection, you're going to check the status of your outreach approval requests, and you're going to submit your quarterly report cover form, as well as keep a copy of that certainly in the front of your file for that quarter as well.
And you can find the memo and the quarterly cover form in the Hunger Solutions website in the NOEP only section. And if you have difficulty finding that, you can definitely contact your contract manager and they can help you find that. But don't forget about those memos. They're very important. If you could get into the Hunger Solutions website and print off those memos, they'll help you tremendously.
Any additional questions before we close the webinar today? Okay, I'm not seeing any come in. If you do have any after this, please contact your contract manager. Again, they can walk you through all of these things we went through today. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll go over Litmos, our online learning management, tomorrow, at 2 p.m. And please, we'll start about on time. We started a couple minutes later today just because we want to make sure everybody was on. We'll do the same tomorrow. Start, on time or just a couple minutes after. So please tune in tomorrow for Litmos. Again, some of you I know who are on the webinar today have already gone through the Litmos process. You've taken all your required courses. So if you don't want to come on tomorrow, that's okay, but it might be a really good refresher. I would recommend that. And for those of you who have not gone through the Litmos process at all, taking your required courses, we will walk through how to use Litmos, what is required. We'll look at the time frames they're required in, and how you get your credentials. So we'll go through all of that tomorrow. Okay, everyone, with that, I'm going to say have a really good afternoon, and you'll be hearing from me, such as my voice is, tomorrow afternoon. Take care, everyone.
Have a great day.